Okay, I'm going to switch over. Thank you, Yannick. We have Jennifer next up in the queue. We stole a couple minutes from her. Good morning, Jennifer.
Good morning.
I'm going to pin you. Do you have slides today? I can make you a co-host as needed.
No, I never have slides. Like never.
Fantastic. Well, Jennifer is a longtime community member, longtime user. Her day-to-day work involves managing many websites, Joomla websites, and she's got a really interesting topic, I think, for how to choose extensions at scale. So if you're scaling your agency, or if you start a job and you've got dozens or hundreds of sites, or you're building for that many, how do you choose extensions, templates, etc., at scale? So, Jennifer, welcome and take it away.
It's so nice to see all these faces I haven't seen in so long.
I agree. I
Really
agree.
nice. Yeah, because I haven't, I've been so busy working, and I haven't been, I haven't been around the community as much as I should be. So I should maybe look back into getting into the bugs.
I agree. That's a great idea.
Great. But it's really great to see two of the extensions that I use, people talking about two of the extensions that I use regularly that are always included in my builds for the most part. And yeah, it's great stuff going on with both of your extensions. It's really great.
So it's JCE and for SEO, formerly
Yes.
SH404 staff.
Yes.
Right.
But so one of the things, I'm going to go kind of back in history. Back when I was first doing Joomla sites, and all sorts of new things were being created all the time, and the extension and plugins, I mean, you could find things for almost everything that you wanted to do. Template builders were ramping up, doing all sorts of neat bling, and it was really great. And I was building sites and everything was great. But then when it came time to move up to 1.5, I ran into difficulties. Back then, I was managing probably about 40 sites, and none of the sites really had any continuity. I kind of built each one for an individual job. And then when I came to update, I ran into problems because some of the extensions were no longer updated. Some of the templates were compatible. And so I realized I needed to make a change going forward, and I needed to make a change with what I was managing at the time. And so I continued on and continued to create. I started to create a package that I used, a base package of extensions. And that allowed me to have continuity so that when things change or a bug is introduced, I can be prepared for all of my sites to be able to react accordingly. And so when it happens, when something is needed or happens to one, I can roll it out across all. And so that really saved me a lot of time. It saved me a lot of heartache. Saved me a lot of upset clients. So then going forward, when in 2012, I think it was, I went to work for Cloud Access as head of their support team. And I realized how much that was really an issue with so many people, that they had installed extensions. Some, they weren't even using them. They'd started causing problems. Their templates were breaking when they'd update, but there was no update for the template, especially when you saw with some of like Theme Monster and those things, they're not necessarily, it's hard to find out which one is the new template.
Right.
They're not the easiest of systems to navigate.
I think in all CMSs, those third-party marketplaces tend to be, I published something, I sold 1,000 copies, and then I ghosted and it's gone. And you don't know, hard to tell if is it going to be an update? Can I contact the developer? You see that across many CMSs, Joomla, of course, in particular.
Yeah. So in helping the customer base of Cloud Access, and really trying to help young developers that were, coming on, especially when Cloud Access was doing the sign up for free, and then you could test and then there were new developers that were trying to build their client base. And so when they would come across a problem, I'd say, it doesn't matter what extensions you use or what template you use or template provider, but pick a group that has known responsiveness to questions, that is known to take care of issues quickly if there's a vulnerability, and get to know that group that you pick as your base as well as you possibly can. Know everything about it inside out, because then you can move forward and scale. You're not just taking care of 5 websites; you can take care of 50 websites, because you're not trying to solve an individual problem on each site all the time,
Right.
because that will soak up all your time. And so then going forward, I was with Cloud Access for a while, and I met one of my current clients, which is Red Sage Communications, and they brought me on as a consultant and to manage their entire catalog of clients and their websites. And so initially when I came on, they came in as a client to Cloud Access. And so I initially moved their 225 sites to Cloud Access, and then started to help them kind of create an atmosphere of development and building that would allow them to continue to grow. And so I'm just gonna tell the extensions that we have kind of in our package. I mean, and people's mileage may vary. They can use whichever is great for them. But admin tools is on every single Joomla site. Akiva Backup, of course, is on every single Joomla site. JCE is on every single Joomla site. We do use for SEO on sites as needed. That's our go-to. Regular Labs has specific ones that we use. But just because all of these extensions are long-term developers that continue innovating and continue creating a quality product, and they're always open for responsive to issues. If there's a bug, we also use Utheme Pro as our template base, and Zoo has been integral to a lot of the sites because they're a lot of governmental sites that need directories, those sort of things, and Zoolanders with their extensions for Zoo and their extensions now for Utheme Pro. So that's kind of like the package that we install. And I have a base package that I recreate it every year to make sure we're starting with a clean base. But that's what we use as a build. We duplicate that, and then we can start building a new site. And so we have this continuity, and that means I can go through an update. When an update happens, I can go through and update 200 sites in the space of 2 days. I test everything first, and if everything goes well, because of the beauty of Watchful.
Oh, well, thank you.
Watchful saves my day every day. So I actually manually update and test things on a few sites, and then if it all goes well, because I know my package is good and I know my sites are stable, then I can go through and update 200 sites. I can mass backup, and then go through and process updates. And I think that unless you're putting something together that allows you to kind of automate some of these things, there's really not a way to scale up to take care of 200 sites.
Or 2,000.
So it doesn't really matter. Like, in my opinion, I know what extensions I like, but it doesn't matter if you pick Rocket Theme or if you pick any of the extensions, as long as they've been, as long as they're reputable, they've been around a long time, they're not going to disappear, and they're responsive. Just create your package and work and get to know everything about those extensions. That's the best advice I can give.
Jennifer, I don't want to steal your time if you've got a bunch more points, but I have so many questions. Is it okay to jump in, or do you want to press on?
That's pretty much my spiel.
Okay, perfect. That's a great time. So Laura asked the question first, so I want to ask that. Do you have a different group for Joomla 4 sites? Have you started building Joomla 4? And if so, any changes from Joomla 3 in your package?
We haven't started using Joomla 4 to build, but recently I took one of our sites as a test site, a pretty complicated site, and made sure everything was updated, went through and made sure that there wasn't any leftovers around. I mean, sometimes something will get installed, especially on an older site. Some of the older sites, they have sites going back 12 years. So on some of the older sites, there's things in there that have been disabled and everything. So I made sure it was fully clean, but I knew it was a complicated site and I wanted to see how it would go. And I updated it to Joomla 4. And I was absolutely shocked that it was flawless.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. Fantastic.
So that makes me very excited because I've got 100 and some odd sites to update. So to know that process, that knowing that we put in place a foundation that allow, and that foundation actually started with the 2.5 to 3.
Joomla 2.5, yeah.
Really started making everything kind of very coherent across all the sites. And I think it's made all the difference in the world of how we're going to be able to move forward with Joomla 4.
Jennifer, how do you maintain your base site, your package, the way you say? It's easy for me to imagine that on your primary server or on a staging server, you have your master site, and maybe you have a master site for different verticals, but they've got those extensions pre-installed. And so let's say you're starting from that. Am I correct so far?
Mm-hmm.
So you're starting with that. Then you get a new client or a new build for an existing client. How does you go from that to a launched base to develop that new site? How does it go from that package to a real site that's in production?
Well, we host on Cloud Access. And so I have our packages that I've created, and everything that can be pre-configured is pre-configured. So for instance, Admin Tools has a way, and we store all our backups on Amazon S3. So there's an easy way that it doesn't matter if you use the defaults for Akiba, it'll put the host name, time, and date.
Right.
That's all you need to do.
Right.
Which means nobody needs to touch it again.
Right.
And no matter what development URL we put it on, when we back up, that's what it'll be in our backups, so we can find it. So things like that. So all we do is we duplicate the package, and then we start building.
You do that manually, or do you use like Akiba Backup to do a site restoration on a new URL? What's the actual technology you're using to?
Oh, well, Cloud Access has a duplication process.
So they take care of it.
And sometimes it, like all things, if it loses connection for a second, you might get a little bit of a mess up. But I can restore a site manually using an Akiba backup.
Right.
It takes me less than 5 minutes.
It's really fast.
So I don't, usually I like to do it manually just so I can make sure everything kind of happens correctly. Because I kind of like to keep control over that. So, a little bit of a control freak. But so yeah, we just duplicate. It's on a development URL. All of the developers that we use are adding content, adding functionality. Really, I think UTheme Pro has done an excellent job of with their builder and with WidgetKit. Before we used WidgetKit for a lot of content, and WidgetKit still has some real value.
Yeah.
But Page Builder has taken over for a bunch of what WidgetKit used to do.
Right.
And we find it much easier to train clients to enter in content because it's visual. And as long as you're labeling everything correctly, naming, they can easily go in and find that they need to edit this panel.
Yeah, sure.
And so you make decisions early on in your career if you're starting a web development house, and try to make the best decisions. Look around and make sure can have a long-term relationship with those extension and template developers.
So that's a really great segue to the question that came to me when you're speaking earlier. I'm starting at an agency tomorrow. I'm starting, maybe I know something about web development. Maybe I'm coming over from another platform. I'm doing Joomla. I don't know anyone in the community. I don't know any of these developers who are in this room right now. And, people like, other people in this room who've been around a while. How do I vet an extension developer for support responsiveness? How do I vet a template provider for like PHP compatibility or Joomla 4 compatibility? How do I do those things as someone new coming in, besides attending this wonderful talk?
Well, one of the things that I regularly do, if there's something that we think we need to implement in our packages, I will we will we will either purchase it or do a trial, and we will test it, and then we will test their responsiveness to questions.
So you make some support requests.
We do that, and the other thing, I mean, I research reviews. I think because it would be difficult for me to tell somebody who's new in the community where they would go in the community,
right,
to find out, other than the forums. Where, I mean, when I was first starting out in Joomla, the forums were just one of those magical places.
Yeah.
They really were.
For sure.
Everybody was so friendly and happy to help. And I mean, the forums are still a great place. I think I see lots of questions being asked on Twitter. So I think I would just recommend that hit all the public spaces and ask about the extensions that you're interested in, that you need that functionality, because there's no lack of opinions.
That's for sure. But submitting support ideas is a great step. It requires some work up front, but that's what you're doing when you're building a package. You're putting that work in up front to save it on the back end, later on, month to month, year to year. So that's really, really good advice. Checking change logs can be helpful for how often they update. Things that go to their blog on their site. Have they posted a blog and post in the last 2, 3, 4 years? If not, you might have a concern. Not all places are really great about posting on their blog. I've always struggled to know if Utheme were doing something new or not. Sometimes there's a gap, but everyone has just been raving about Utheme the last couple of years. I think they've, obviously doing a great job, but just looking at their blog might not tell me. I don't want to call them out. Maybe their blog, I haven't seen in a few months. Maybe it's really full of stuff now, but that's not just one channel is maybe not enough.
I think they really only release a blog post when they release a new a new version,
like something big
happens. And they always do a year in review. But the other thing is if you go into the support forum, you can see that they are active, and other people are active and helping other users.
Right.
So that's one of the other things that I look for is, do they have a support forum? Do they have a ticketing system? Those sort of things. If I go to an extension site and there isn't a forum or a way for me to submit a ticket rather than just an email, although I don't mind just doing an email, I will actually test it out by sending them an email with the question about, and see how long it takes them to get back to me.
Yeah, due diligence, you got to look for all those channels. And it's interesting. I mean, every business has kind of their own channel or set of channels. Facebook groups have been popular the last couple of years. Steve will speak in a couple of hours at 10 a.m. Central, so that's 11, 10 a.m. Eastern, about building a Facebook group and newsletter. And so we've started doing some of that at Watchful too. Some people just like to be there. And I've been vetting some developers in their Facebook group. Go there. Are the developers responding? Are the other community members responding? So yeah, just another channel. And Laura's reminding me that Joomla user groups are virtual. So many virtual these days. Also great places to jump in and ask for advice. Certainly, which ones do you like, or which ones should I vet, or maybe which ones should I avoid, right?
And I find the when I'm looking for something new, because we have a specific functionality, I really like the extension directory.
Right.
I think it's over the years it's progressed an awful lot, and now you can kind of see who's new, who's been there a while, and you can see via the reviews what's going on with their extension. You can see who's being kind of responsive to what is going on with their extension, and so the extension directory is a great place.
Yeah. Brian is making a comment in the chat, if you want to jump in there, that they've got Utheme has a Discord server, and Discord is another place that many companies and organizations are using for support and community building. But also that UTheme has gotten away from this Theme of the Month Club. And I think that's common across many theme builders now, especially with in the last 5 years, the theme builder. Someone said that a few minutes ago that theme builders maybe didn't like them. Theme builder is the most popular extension after JCE, I think, and Akiba Backup or something. They're super duper popular in all these CMSs like WordPress and Joomla and all those. So yeah, it's nice to see UTheme focus on their builder because that's where obviously people are interested in that. SP Page Builder, again, one of the top extensions that we see, one of the top extensions on the directory. And both of those they're all Joomla 4 supporting, if I'm not mistaken. So that's really great to see also.
Yeah. So, and the other things I wanted to talk about is, because you were talking about other CMSs, and, every once in a while there is a need. I mean, you use the right tool for the job.
Right.
So, an interesting thing that I've seen is that a lot of the Joomla extension developers, the ones that are my go-to, have also branched off into other CMSs. And so now my package for Joomla and WordPress is pretty cohesive.
Right.
And so that means it's almost to the point where I can switch back and forth seamlessly between the two without confusion or really trying to look for something, because I'm using a base package that is familiar, which is great for other people in the agency that need to be able to switch. It's helped them because there's now the screens look similar.
Right.
So they're not searching for things. So I really, shout out to the Joomla developers, bridging over and reaching out for other things, because it just means that there's a lot of credibility there, in my opinion.
You talked a lot, and you talk a lot about having testing their support of these, agencies you work with and the developers you work with. When you've already got a support structure in place, you understand how X company's support works. Oh, so if I'm using a different platform but the same developer, I'm still in touch with the same people, the same relationships, and that obviously helps. When you're managing hundreds of sites. Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
It does very much.
We are not out of time, I should say. This is the end of the scheduled time, but we have an hour break right now, or a 40-minute break, so we can continue chatting. Anyone who wants to stay on, we can chat more about this topic, of course, but we can chat about any of those suggestions. And if anyone wants to come on the screen, I'm happy to do that.